Hey everyone, and welcome to the Speaking Truth to Power podcast with one of your hosts, Alex Frace, and your other host,
Victoria Fenton.
Wonderful. And today, everybody, our faithful listeners, our millions of listeners and viewers around the world who have been, deeply touched and moved by our first podcast episode and who are just gagging and craving for more. Mm-hmm. Today, we will be talking about, what does actually holistic health truly mean? And we'll be diving into every aspect of the mind, the body, the soul, within as much depth as our podcast time will allow us to. It's going to be a very, very interesting talk. I'm very excited for it. How are you feeling about it, Victoria?
Great. I hate the word holistic, but we really can't think of another one, can we? There's no other.
Yeah, it's like It's been bastardized. It's been beaten to an absolute pulp and then made into a fruit smoothie. And fruit smoothies are just not that great for your insulin levels. So maybe put a bit of veg in there would be great. And we will need to come up with I find potentially something like integral health may be better.
Yeah, so I used to call myself an integrative medicine practitioner, basically because I work a lot with doctors as well when I'm doing kind of, mashing into somebody's complicated care plan. But people go, what? What does that mean? And you're like, well, clues in the name. So maybe we'll come up with or if our faithful listeners have another idea, feel free to drop us a comment underneath our YouTube video or send us messages on all the platforms, etc. So for want of better words, what does holistic health really mean? So where do you want to start?
Ooh. I mean, I guess one of the interesting words to start with actually holistically, where does that even come from? Who came up with that word and why does it mean, or why has it come to mean mind, body, and spirit? If I'm honest, I have no idea where it came across and who started this whole movement of, it has to be holistic in terms of it needs to be mind, body, and soul. And it kind of feels as if people have run away with the term and not given it much thought. It's kind of been like, this is a nice fancy new word. I'm going to hop on this a train going 110 miles an hour.
And also it's used more to sort of talk about the mind spirit stuff. And often the body's forgotten within holistic practitioners. And that really, I class myself as a truly holistic practitioner, because you can come to me and talk about genetics, body biochemistry, gut biome, think of other medical things, like all of that, and medicines that you might be taking. I've done a lot of time looking at mental health, so working with people on psychiatric meds and all those kinds of things. And I do all the mindset stuff. So I've got all my mindset pieces, and I do all the emotional stuff. And then I go to spiritual and all the inner stuff. And that, to me, I mean, for want of making this podcast 2 minutes long, that's holistic health. But
everybody, thank you for your time. That is us, Victoria Fenton, Alex Frace, Speaking Truth to Power, done in 2 minutes. There you go. Thank you very much. See you next podcast.
Which is hilarious, because you say that to people and you're like, and I really do see 4 things. I see everything in 4s. But the whole point of holisticness is not to split that up into 4 things. It's to make that one. So, I mean, as far as I'm aware, holistic just means looking at the whole person, right? Yeah. Which includes the physiology.
Includes the physical aspect, because we live in a dense, I call it, we live in a dense world.
Like that.
Because, you can maybe hear me knocking. This is all dense. You touch, you feel, this is dense. This is, people want to call Earth third dimension. It's actually the third density, because we're in a layer of density of energy. Yeah. Dimensions are infinite as far as we know. Density, not so much. So I feel that, and it's funny because let's say the mind and the spirit practitioners, let's call, I don't know what to call them, I don't mean to be derogatory, let's call them the woo-woo practitioners, will focus on the lighter stuff, the airy stuff, the more, I call it, let's say, heart above stuff. Whereas doctors and nutritionists and even some herbalists to an extent as well will focus on, solar plexus down, like more body stuff. Not all herbalists, but some, the ones who've been what I call medicalized, for lack of a better term, to be honest. Like, you think only about the body, and it's all about the body and the tests and what the test results show, and if you have this marker you must have this aspect, or no. To a larger, more holistic degree, no. You view things as a whole system of how everything's working, and if you get to an ability and a willingness to see what actually lies underneath that and where it comes from, you'll get a greater sense of what the person is about. You'll see, all right, so what type of family were they raised in? Were they raised in poverty? Were they raised in a war-torn place? Even if it's not war-torn, but was their household a war-torn place? Was their father an alcoholic, or were they beaten, or were they bullied? Were they intimidated? Were their parents narcissists? Were they gaslighting them when they went to school? How were they raised? Were their mates? Were they the cool kid? Were they the sporty kid? Were they the loner, the weirdo, the geek, whatever it was? All of those create a fragmented aspect of who you are. And that ties in to other aspects of health and how your nervous system then functions. Because if you are someone who's always going to be slightly nervous and fearful, not only will your posture change, you'll also create a physical protection. It's also that spiritual protection of, okay, well, I'm going to be protecting this aspect of my body, my heart, my feelings, my throat, my emotions. You're almost like covering, protecting yourself, so to speak. And then when you see things from a holistic view, like, oh, okay, well, you start to see how someone's posture can mean so much within the spectrum. And so many times, I mean, to be honest, throughout my life, I've always just kind of weird. I've always stared at people or looked at people, and I've always, I don't know, staring.
Making yourself sound like a creepy stalker. Yeah.
I've looked at people in a way that I've always been very analytical. I've always seen like, okay, well, they're walking like this, and my first aspect, okay, so musculoskeletal deficiencies in terms of the way the muscles were activating. But then, if they're completely hunched over, do they feel as if they have, the world on their shoulders? Do they feel as if they're carrying a burden? Are they always trying to get somewhere? Is their heart closed in? Can they breathe in life? And you have all these different subtle aspects within the physical as well, which ties into the emotional and to the spiritual, which allows you to see more of the way I'm seeing it is it's more like a flower blooming. You get to see the whole thing, and then you get to see the roots as well. So you get to see the whole picture of it.
Yeah. And the way I describe that is that nothing happens in one dimension only. Like, nothing is just physical, just mental, just emotional, just spiritual. And there may objectively or subjectively perhaps seem like there's a time lag between all of this, but there really isn't. Things happen at once in all of the layers of your being, and we're being very kind of linear about it, and we could go into the subtle bodies, which is a whole different way of understanding things, and having all the 7 subtle bodies and more, and all of that kind of understanding. But nothing happens just in one body. It affects your whole being, hence holistic health. So I mentioned in our introductory podcast the frustration of having a sort of functional medicine practitioner label, and people coming to me with this kind of very, I want the magic bullet physical solution, because even if I've got like a gut biome test for somebody and I'm seeing yeast overgrowths, or I'm seeing parasites, it's like, well, that's not just bad luck. That's not just oops, bit of an overgrowth. That's a thing that is manifesting in all of your subtle body layers, and that includes so for yeasts, I always think that people are allowing people to feed off their energy and all those kinds of stuff, and maybe there's a whole kind of mental aspect to that, of fermenting things, going over and over things, ruminating, those kind of things, and then up to your kind of emotional body and how you see yourself in maybe a bit of a codependent way. Maybe you're kind of always trying to meet other people's needs. There's so much that is able to be uncovered, and actually I use the physical symptoms not as the end point and not as the diagnosis, but as the window into really deep stuff for people. And that is what holistic health can be. It can be your doorway into deep stuff, like understanding really deep stuff about who you are and how you show up in life. just by starting from like, oh, Parasite, you know?
Yeah. Parasite, I'm always thinking, you know, there's an aspect of you which is being fed on by an external source. You know, and it could even, you know, if you talk about real spirituality terms, it could be an entity being attached to you, literally feeding off of you in a way. It doesn't have to be, but that it could be one aspect of it, or you are allowing someone or something, an aspect within your life to just continually just lay there and feed on you. You know, it could be dormant at this point in time, but then again, it could also become active. You know, because you have this point whereby things are dormant and things can be activated through certain pathways, certain emotional pathways, and that could, one of the easiest ways to start seeing that is, well, for me at least, it's like if I start noticing if I'm doing something different with my diet.
Yeah.
You know, because food is a major way to start comforting yourself, to start healing or hiding. You know, it's one or the other. You're healing or you're hiding. You're not really doing a middle ground. I'm sorry for anyone who thinks you are. That's bullshit. In my opinion, you're either healing yourself, you're feeding yourself with the good foods, the light foods, or you are actually just hiding stuff, and you're hiding behind chocolate to make you feel good because it's nourishing. Oh, I crave a bit of chocolate because of this, and then, you know, I'm craving lots of cheese or whatever the hell you crave. Right? It could be carbs. You're craving an aspect of nourishing. Something inside you needs to be nourished, needs to be felt, needs to be held, needs to be nurtured, needs to be loved, and it's always interesting to get at least clients and people to start looking inwardly. I'm like, okay, well, you are great for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4, whatever timeline, right?
Yeah.
And then why is it changed? You know what? Oh, well, you know, I was feeling stressed. So, oh, I don't know. When I hear I don't know, I'm like, okay, well, you haven't turned your eye inward. You're continually looking outwardly for reasons external out of you. You need to learn to look inwards, and that's where the holistic and integral health aspect comes into it, because you start realizing, oh, I am the master of my own kingdom. I have all of my own keys. Let me start looking inwardly as to why I'm doing these things.
And I deal so much with digestive issues, probably because of my background, where so much is kind of digestive health. And I also deal a lot with patients who've got to the point where they're on like 5 or 6 foods because everything else makes them react. Everything else kind of has a problem within their body. And, you know, so often people want the dietary fix, like what foods do I need to eliminate in order to be safe? And it's like, whoa, there's so many messages in that. Like you're setting yourself a kind of, in order to be safe in the world, I need to restrict and control the inputs. And that instantly is the wrong chemistry. It's the wrong frequency. It's the wrong energy pattern. So, and I think this is the main reason. Well, this is how I healed myself. Like I realized that physiologically, when I was reacting to everything, I had a moment. I think I was eating cottage cheese on a Ryvita. It was so very 90s, although it was the sort of 2013.
So 90s, it's hilarious.
It's like, but interestingly though, like let's just wind back, because this is before I kind of had really grounded out my food relationship. But
right.
It's a safe food for the 90s because everyone did cottage cheese and Ryvitas to diet. So very much it was the safe food. So when I'm like trying to learn to eat again, like after, you know, being tube fed for months and then peg fed and all those kinds of stuff, and everything made me ill, like I'm going to go to safe foods. And that's not necessarily something to criticize, but it is an interesting thing to look at and go, okay, so you gravitate to what you cognitively know is safe, even though, bloody hell, Ryvita is basically indigestible. Like what the fuck was I doing? Anyway, I had a moment with my cottage cheese and Ryvita, and I was like, it's not the food that's the problem, it's me. Something in me is not feeling safe within this vehicle. I now know the kind of biochemical chemistry reasons. And if you didn't listen to episode 1, I have a genetic condition which kind of alters the way my nervous system and connective tissue fit. But that's not an excuse. And this is what I say to every Ehlers-Danlos syndrome connective tissue disorder patient that comes to me. It's like, your label is just a reality. It's not an excuse to go, oh my God, need control to feel safe. That's just the wrong energy in life. So all of my work initially was like, you know, yes, I've got these fancy labels. I've got mast cell activation syndrome. So when I touch a strawberry, I come out in hives all over my body, literally touching a strawberry. That was how I used to be. And it's like, I don't care. Like, that's not an okay thing. That's me being very reactive to the world. Why? And that's the juicy bit. Like, and I use food now, as you were saying, it's a signal. It's how you're behaving in the food environment is, it's like a reflection. Use it as a mirror. And go on, like, do the journey. So I've got patients at the moment, a couple of patients who keep emailing me saying, oh, I've reacted to this food again, I've reacted to this food again. And like me trying to take them through the point of like, well, it's not the food. Like, you can't just eliminate all the food.
I mean, what are you going to be, a breatharian? I mean, you technically could be, but that's also a lifelong, you know, that's a real dedication to become a breatharian. And
I was once told I could be a breatharian, by the way.
Yeah.
Story in early life, like.
One of my major spiritual insights when I was really getting into alternative ways to heal the body was breatharianism, actually. And it was a massive spiritual download for me. And it was like a cataclysm of pure white light hitting me, and so many different aspects of what I've been learning just like all synced up together.
Wow.
It was incredible. So like, as humans, we definitely can do it. It's about honestly the detoxification and the willingness to go through all the processes to then changing the way those internal organs work and how they formulate, and it's super interesting, super powerful. That's probably
legal disclaimer, we are not advocating stopping eating and turning into a breatharian.
No, carry on eating if you wish to. But yes, anyways, it's you know, it's, and that I'm gonna go on the label thing you were saying. Like, I think that's really, really powerful, because with regards to holistic health, too many people get stuck on a label. Oh, I have Ehlers-Danlos. Oh, I have anxiety, or I have ADHD, or I'm being psychic attacked. Whatever it is, you know, why? Why? I mean, I don't mean to steal Simon Sinek's sort of line here, but like, start with the why. Start asking why. Simon Sinek, if you're watching this, please don't do me for copyright. I have said you own the line, and I don't own it.
I often tell my like clients to like be an irritating 3-year-old, like just relentlessly ask why all the time. And I think, you know, we're straying into a slight territory where you and I might have a difference of opinion, but the why, I believe, is always you invited it in, however horrendous, however challenging, however, you know, absolutely bloody awful. I always believe that we invited it in to learn, to grow, to change, to shift, to see, all of those kinds of things. Even the most challenging of stuff. So
yeah, there are, this is one of the things where I agree to, I would probably say 70-80% of what you say. And then I would say I have a slightly 20 or 30% slight difference, like variability into that.
We'll speak to that. But this is an honest, like, maybe it's a bit deep, but this, like, speak to the difference.
So you call everything in to a degree, but I also have the way that I've seen it and the way that I've been shown it, and I guess to the level of my understanding through the consciousness level that I have right now, is the fact that you've agreed to go through certain experiences as, let's say, as a title, as a role. How it manifests is different. You know, it doesn't have to be one exact precise thing. It can be, you can also have, it's like options, so to speak. You know how in video games whereby you get to go down, let's say you get to choose which path you go down, and then you have infinite possibilities based on which choice. That's the way that I see it. So you invited to, what I say is you invited it into a degree. How you experience it then becomes a bit more, you get into more the minutiae of the detail and becomes a bit more nuanced, so to speak. But again,
I was just to say, this is fascinating because I don't believe there's options. I really do. I don't believe in free will. I don't, like, I'm very on the page of everything is just mapped. It's choreography. So like, you'd fuck up if you chose a different adventure, not you as a person, but it just would imbalance the totality. But that's cool, because I like, it doesn't make any difference to how we show up together, how we laugh, how we joke. Like, you know, maybe I could have sent a different sticker on Telegram. Maybe I could have sent a cherry rather than Moomin, but like, none of that matters. Like, it's all very kind of, and I find my perspective deeply empowering, not disempowering, empowering. And I understand that some people find it disempowering. And at the end of the day, we're talking about beliefs. So beliefs are there to be your truth, not universal truth.
Yes, it's your truth, not the truth, and I think that's the most important thing to elicit, especially, you know, coming back to the topic of holistic health. Like, it's a truth, it's not the truth, you know. And everything that we're talking about here is like, we see it from our truth, and I'm not telling you this is the way it is and it has to be like this, but much how like medicine does, or like how nutrition does. Is like, oh, if you have a scalloped tongue, or if you are suffering muscle cramping, you have a magnesium deficiency. Like, well, maybe, sure, but also realistically, why and what's deeper behind that? And that's an aspect of the truth. It's not the truth. And that to me is also a very important aspect of holistic health, is you need to come to an understanding of what your truth is, and you need to be open to other people's truths.
And not to take them on, to adopt them, but to know that other people have other truths. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Who was it? I think it's Aristotle who correct me if I'm wrong, or someone comment down below. I think it was Aristotle who commented, you know, I'm going to paraphrase, but the sign of a wise person or intelligent person is to be able to hear something, hear an argument, understand it, but not necessarily have to agree with it. You can see what the other person is saying, you can understand, you can get a new view. The way I see it is, let's say I'm looking here, this is my view and my truth. With your truth, I go here. And I can see a little bit more, and it opens up my mind. I don't have to agree with what you're saying, what you're feeling, whatever it is. But you should always remain open, because it can bring something new to your life, which can help improve it. You know, even if it's just 1.5x, whatever, you know, even if it improves it 10x, and all of it, amazing. I'm on board for it. And I think it takes a special and specific type of human to be able to do that without rejecting and making the other person feel as if they're wrong or less than, which then triggers them, and it just becomes a bit more of an ego battle and a narcissistic battle of, I'm smarter than you, you're not as smart, you don't know, blah, 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 all the useless shit that comes along with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my big thing about, you know, the holistic health thing, I have a real thing about safety. Like, I do believe that we are healthier as human beings when we feel safe. So in 100%. Many ways. And beliefs is a huge part of that. Belief in purpose. So feeling like you're on purpose, like on living your purpose, doing what you're here to do, and your belief system around all of that is another safety construct. It's another pillar of how we feel safe in this world. It's not, you know, like in terms of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like we are very, you know, first world privilege here, like talking about like safety from a conscious perspective and safety in our perspectives. Like, we're not fighting for food and survival, but I believe it's our duty as people who have been born into the level of privilege that we have to work on our level of the stuff, which is like this kind of ability to have a belief system which makes you feel empowered and safe, and recognize that it won't make the next person feel empowered and safe. And you know, all of Sam Harris's arguments about whether free will exists and all that kind of stuff, it's like, why are you arguing with people who want to believe they have agency that they don't have agency? What's the point of that? Is this sorry to be crude, but it's basically a dick measuring contest about who's got the right belief system? Don't you think though? It is. And because people have platforms like podcasts, they can now do this in public, which is pretty vulgar given the analogy I've just used. But, you know, it's this like, I'm going to do this publicly, and I have a platform to try and convince people to my way of speaking. And we didn't talk about this in the intro episode, and we didn't talk about it in either of the ones we recorded because I kept forgetting. But the reason we called this podcast the Speaking Truth to Power podcast is because I think I came up with it, didn't I, amongst other hilarious suggestions, which were completely inappropriate. But for me, that title means that I don't feel particularly powerful. I don't feel like I've got a huge, this is not, even if we've like our millions of listeners in the future, even if we've got millions of listeners, it's not a power play. It's not, we're right, we're telling you how the world is. This is come into our brain spaces, because we are very open to different truths, different beliefs, different everything, because the broader we can be in terms of our own perspectives, the more accepting we can be of other fellow humans. And what is the point of trying to yell at people that we're right and you're wrong? Like it's like my brain doesn't compute that level of competition.
You know what, that brings me very much back to, let's say, people like in the biohacking community. It's all about, I have the best stack, I'm right, I have the newest information, I have the newest supplement, I have the newest product, blah, 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 blah. It don't fucking matter at the end of the day, my friend. No. You're not my friend, but buddy.
They don't like you, Fraser. They don't, the biohackers don't like you.
I mean, no, because I call them out on, I've called
on the
them
bullshit.
Out on the bullshit, which it is. And it's very much a massively, I mean, this is a whole separate podcast, but I find within the health world, when it's not truly holistic, it's very masculine driven. And I don't mean male, I mean masculine, the energy, the quality for our listeners. I'm not saying it's a male, it is mostly male driven, but even the women within it, it's very masculine energy. It's very much drive, oriented, goal, determination, must be more, must be better, must put myself higher, like achieve. I'm like, that's empty. And that to me doesn't represent integral health, holistic health, because you need the feminine to heal. End of story. Like,
and you need the whole feminine. So you need proper feminine. So just to like add into that, and we will do a whole episode on masculine and feminine energy and dynamics, but the feminine that I see that is, counter to the very masculine conventional medicine world is this softly nutrition-y, wimpy kind of girly feminine, which is like as empty as that ego masculine. And it's like people look at me and say like I'm quite masculine, and actually I'm really not. I'm very grounded mother bear energy feminine. That's how I approach my work, my life, all of that kind of stuff. When I'm in my center, it's very easy to default into cocky ego masculine though. Hey.
Yeah, into the not self. It is easier, and it's about catching yourself. And that full femininity is different than what people perceive feminine to be. People think feminine is, I'm all wafy and I'm all like, I'm feminine and I'm beautiful, look at me dance. And like, no, that is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the true essence of the feminine energy is a truly embodied human is completely different to what we think it is, because we've been raised on magazines, movies, film stars, pop stars, whatever it is, and they're all painted one or two ways, either masculine or like the extreme end of the powder puff feminine, which is a weak kind of frail woman who can't really do it, and she's always looked, I mean, that's not it. An embodied truly feminine person doesn't need a man. They type of thing, they don't need no man, like the independent woman type thing. And it's that energy of mother, it could be mother bear, it could be mother deer, that type of just energy, and they're just there and they're just grounded. It's different and it's truly powerful, and it is honestly a blessing to be in the presence of that energy, because it's so rare. And when you come into that presence of that energy within let's call it the holistic health world, or even just in general, it's a gift, because it opens up doors and keys within yourself to walk through for you to activate. It's priceless. And I feel this is the next step for all of health, mind, body, and spirit. Holistic health is to bring in the anchored version of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, or you just want to call it the masculine and the feminine, whatever, I don't care. Call it whatever you want, people who are listening. You bring that in and you bring it in together, embodied as one. You don't have, sometimes I'll be feminine, sometimes I'll be different. It's no, they're together because they're meant to be together. That is our original source and original DNA imprint from before we got down here was together as one. The only reason why we have been split is because we were in a dense universe, and therefore we kind of have to be split, because all higher beings, if you believe in that, they're just one energy. They don't have a penis, they don't have a vagina, they don't have titties. They simply don't.
And it's interesting that you just mentioned genitalia, because there's a lot of this kind of discussion about gender, genitalia, sexuality, all of that. It's very in the consciousness at this moment in time, and I think that is a signal, a sign that the universe is going through this kind of frequency disturbance underneath, where masculine and feminine isn't clearly defined because it has been so sexualized. It's been taken into man with penis, woman with, you know, vagina and all the bits, and it's very kind of sexual, not divine energy. And unfortunately, but the conversation has gone from sexual to gender, which is okay, it's a relevant conversation. But I think the undercurrent of that, again, talking holistic and everything happens on many levels, is this kind of frequency disturbance in the representation of real masculinity and real femininity within our kind of consciousness at this moment in time.
Very much so. And you know, when you're saying all of that, you know, the extremes end of the masculine and the feminine, it's like, it's the intro that we have, and sometimes I make it's like, you know, man, unga bunga, unga bunga, caveman style, and I'm like, that's not the integrated masculine. I'm sorry, that is, and that can be an aspect of it in the right dose, in the right moment, necessary, but it is not what a man is. That is not what a man is, and that's not holistic, because you're just driving towards one end of the extreme. And that is a side that actually, you know, one of the reasons why, this is going to sound weird to a lot of our followers, and I'm not going to apologize for it, one of the reasons why I previously liked Donald Trump is because he highlighted the division of the extremes of the polarity of the masculine and the feminine. Like, the man was aggressive, unga bunga, like, I'm a man, you know, all of that type of stuff. And he really highlighted that, and all the anger and the suppressed hate and everything. And then when the feminine, you know, he basically highlighted like weak women, you know, suppressed women. But it was great because both sides got to come up to the surface and show themselves together, which brings about a possibility for healing as a world, as a community, through an integrated fashion, if they're obviously willing to do the spiritual work and the other work behind it, you know. But the opportunity is there and has been laid there for people to then look at it and to look at themselves and be like, oh damn, oh shit, okay, well, I really gotta sort my shit out, because this ain't pretty, you know. And instead of projecting that anger onto men and onto women and onto politicians and onto actual physical representations of aspects of energy, don't go out, go in. It's all there. It's all in there. And then when you get to that state, you can access that divine feminine, the divine masculine, integrate that into holistic health. And when you look at other people, you can just see them as with compassion, as, oh, okay, you are at that point in your life. Cool. Okay, fine. You're there. Not a problem. If you want help, I can help. I'm not going to be like, God damn you, you shouldn't be thinking that way. No, that's not the right way, in my opinion, at least. That is not the right way to go about it.
No, and I find there's a huge I'm very into thinking about integrity in the way we show up, and there's a huge difference in some of the way people show up when they're like sharing their rightness. It's like, well, you don't really need to do that if you feel okay within you. Like, if you're grounded within your kind of ego, I guess, which gets a negative connotation, but it's kind of what I mean. You know, if you're grounded in your center and your confidence, you don't need to be right. You can just share an opinion without shitting all over everyone else.
Exactly.
Which Donald Trump could never do. By the way, thank you for losing us our millions of followers by saying that. Nice. No, I'm totally joking, because I see people as fragments of consciousness. They are just carrying an energy, and they bring it to bring out stuff in us. And not gonna lie, very triggered by like Bill Gates this year probably. Massively. Like, mate, come on. And I'm not gonna go down a COVID track, but
no. Sorry, mate. Billy G, get the fuck out. I don't care. Get the fuck out.
Yeah. But really respecting him for the fact that his soul signed that contract, come in and play that role. Because that is the emptiest, you know, I would not want to live that life of like external success, internal cavernous blackness.
I mean, he's got no soul left in his eyes, but that's a completely different conversation. So him and his wife, I'm not gonna say him and his, yes, but him and his wife, you look at them, you're like, you two are just made of the same cloth.
Well, and living in South Africa, where their foundation has done a lot of stuff in Africa in general, experimenting with, you know, HIV, drugs, all that. You're just like, yeah. So, but I allow myself to have those triggered moments because that's real. That's called human. That is called being a holistic human. But then to come back to complete and utter like, whoa, okay, like fragment of consciousness. Why would I direct hate and rage and like frustration? I'm just adding that to the pool of hate and rage and frustration in the consciousness as a whole. So I don't think I've quite got to directing tons of my love to Bill Gates. I've just got to like forgetting about him.
No. I mean, Billy Boy is definitely not getting any love from me. He's just getting emptiness. Is all he's going to get from me. You know, no casual wave if I see him on the side of the street or anything. I'm just walking straight past him.
Because he's going to be casually walking past your house in London.
Of course, just in case he ever decides to stroll along, you know, the river, and I'm just walk past him. You know, oops, sorry, I bumped into you. I didn't see you there. Hope you didn't fall into the river, good sir. And hi.
You just ruined your reputation as a really zen dude, by the way. Like, just
I know.
Into the river.
Ladies and gentlemen, I may seem rather zen, but I am a savage underneath all of this. I am not going to lie about it, and you will see it more and more as we progress through this podcast. I
am sure. I am absolutely sure.
But you know, everything that we say or do within that moment, within our span of consciousness that we can access at that point in time, is always done with as much love as possible.
100%. Yeah, and intention is everything. Yeah.
Like, there's a difference when you know someone is trying to be a dick. That, you know, that energy is just like, whoa, you know, it's not the same as, you know, it's very, very different. And you can perceive that from a state of, okay, well, there's a great line, and I've also heard it within a few songs. I mean, also thanks to TikTok, I've heard this line. It's like, hurt people.
Yeah.
You know, and that comes from an aspect of an imbalance within them, an aspect of them that needs healing. And what's always interesting to me is then, you know, let's say if they're a client or if they're a friend, and you know their history or whatever it is, you can then see, you know, how that unfolds within their life, within their health. You know, do they drink too much as a result? Do they smoke weed to escape, or do they smoke cigarettes? Do they party a lot, or do they not go to do they not work out? Do they overwork out? You know, and all these things tie into how they are holistically healthy or not.
Yeah. And just before we finish up this, I just want to just put a little like second thought into this. What is holistic health?
Yeah.
Health becomes a goal a lot of the time. Like, being healthy is this kind of holy grail, like, because you're looking after yourself if you're healthy. I have really tried to encourage myself to own the fact that your health is not a reflection of your worth, ever.
100%.
So just to say that whilst we are technically healthcare practitioners and we are technically people who class themselves in healing modalities, etc., that's not because being healthy means you are worth more. In fact, I have such a rich history of illness that if I founded my worth on my health, I would probably not yet feel like I'm worthy of anything. So it's very important to just say that. Yes, holistic health is all the things that we've discussed, but I hope that you've heard throughout this that we've been advocating curiosity. So when we're doing practices which would be conventionally called unhealthy, we really advocate the curiosity questioning. Get relentlessly interested in why you're showing up in a way that might be slightly damaging to your physiology, or why your physiology is showing up injured or with an illness. And that is the route to dealing with that bit. But wherever you are, from absolutely unwell, not looking after yourself, through to, you know, the healthiest you can be, you are valuable and worthy at every step along that way.
Beautifully said, Victoria. Beautifully said.
Do we have anything else to add into the holistic health pot for today?
Not today, no, but probably a topic we can always come back to at a later date, you know.
Yeah. And any questions, if people have got things that they want us to talk about, want us to go into, always happy to be taking the lead from our massive audience.
I mean, you guys are just phenomenal, and We love you all so much, every single 7 million of you. So
that was funnier in my head because I thought you said 7 billion. I'm like, mate, the whole world is not listening to our podcast. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, we love you, but we'd love you more if you like subscribed, shared, did all the gubbins.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to pressure you or anything, but also to pressure you into doing it.
All right, and we will be back next week with another phenomenally interesting topic.
All right, guys.